In a daring attempt to uncover her daughter's boyfriend's true intentions, Caitlin, the wife of a prominent millionaire, disguised herself as a homeless woman outside their opulent estate. With her heart pounding in a mix of fear and maternal protectiveness, she observed the young man as he approached, every muscle in her body tense with anticipation. But the unexpected truth that unfolded left her utterly speechless and drained of color. Subtly, Caitlin signaled her husband, who was observing from a nearby car, with a discreet thumbs up. Seated on a bench, dressed in rags, she waited for Jeremy, her daughter's boyfriend, to arrive. Caitlin had long suspected him of deceiving her daughter, and she was determined to expose his lies before confronting him. She waited anxiously, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to see. When Jeremy finally appeared, Caitlin watched him closely from a distance. She saw him talking to some unfamiliar people, but she couldn't hear what they were saying. Still, it was clear to her that something shady was going on. "This is bad," she whispered. She knew she had to get Rachel away from this boy, but Rachel wouldn't believe her without proof. But what was Jeremy up to? Who were those suspicious people, and why was he lying to Rachel? From the moment Rachel brought Jeremy home, Caitlin had a bad feeling about him. She didn't have any solid evidence yet, but she was convinced that he was only with her daughter for the money. Like any mother, she wanted the best for Rachel, so she came up with a plan to test him. However, Rachel couldn't find out about the plan yet, or she'd be furious and might never forgive her. Plus, it would ruin everything. Caitlin knew her plan wasn't entirely right, but she felt it was necessary, especially since Rachel refused to listen to her concerns about Jeremy. When Patrick, Caitlin's husband, spotted Jeremy with the shady figures contradicting his excuse of soccer practice, they decided Caitlin would disguise herself as a beggar to gather more information. Jeremy had been evasive when asked about soccer practice on Thursday. They pretended to go out for dinner while watching from a hidden car. Patrick eagerly awaited Jeremy's appearance, desperate to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Caitlin endured discomfort while waiting on the street, finally spotting Jeremy. She observed a suspicious exchange with rough-looking individuals. Doubt crept in, but she couldn't ignore the evidence of possible illegal activity. Concern for Rachel's safety overwhelmed Caitlin as she realized the gravity of the situation. As Jeremy approached, Caitlin panicked, realizing her cover might be blown. She hastily retreated, her heart racing with fear, desperate to avoid confrontation. Caitlin's priority was to avoid being recognized by Jeremy, knowing it would jeopardize their plan. She took a longer route to evade any potential pursuit, ensuring their secrecy was maintained. Successfully evading Jeremy, she met Patrick in a secluded alley where they could discuss the night's events privately. They exchanged worried looks as they considered the possibility of Jeremy's involvement in illicit activities. Despite their concerns, they'd agreed to gather more evidence before confronting him, driven by their love for Rachel. Rachel noticed a change in her parents' behavior, particularly around Jeremy, leading to a confrontation where she expressed her frustration and confusion. Caitlin and Patrick treaded cautiously, withholding their ongoing investigation from Rachel to avoid further rifts. Their attempts to downplay the situation only heightened Rachel's suspicion and frustration, leading to a heated argument where accusations flew. The strained family dynamic left lingering tension, with unspoken doubts and fears dividing them. During dinner, Patrick subtly probed Jeremy about his Thursday activities, hoping to gauge his honesty. Jeremy's defensive responses did little to ease Caitlin's concerns, leaving her grappling with guilt over their secretive actions and the potential consequences. She questioned whether her protective instincts had clouded her judgment, torn between her role as a mother and the ethics of their investigation. Throughout the day, Caitlin wrestled with doubts. Had she unfairly judged Jeremy? She replayed every interaction in her mind, anxious about the possibility of her suspicions being unfounded. The line between protection and prejudice blurred, leaving her uneasy. Meanwhile, Rachel, sensing the tension, grew suspicious. She resolved to uncover the truth about Jeremy herself, tired of her parents' evasion. On a chilly Thursday evening, Rachel discreetly followed Jeremy, her heart racing with fear and determination. As she trailed him, she hoped to dispel the uncertainty clouding their relationship. However, her heart sank when she witnessed him engaged in what seemed like another suspicious exchange. The realization hit her hard, shattering her trust in Jeremy. Alone in her room, Rachel grappled with betrayal and confusion, torn between her love for him and loyalty to her family. Unable to sleep, Rachel faced a difficult choice the next morning: confront Jeremy or confide in her parents. Each option filled her with dread, but she knew she couldn't avoid the truth any longer. Similarly, Caitlin, burdened with fear, shadowed Jeremy from a distance in her quest for answers. As she followed him through the winding streets, her mind raced with possibilities. This could be the moment of truth, the revelation that would either confirm her worst fears or offer an unexpected twist. She braced herself for whatever lay ahead. Caitlin's pursuit led her to an unassuming building bustling with activity. To her astonishment, it was a homeless shelter. She watched as Jeremy, no longer looking secretive or suspicious, stepped inside with purpose. Her confusion grew. This was not the scene she had expected to witness. The contrast between this and the clandestine exchanges she'd seen before was stark. Peering through the window, Caitlin saw Jeremy in a different light. He was interacting with the homeless, serving food, and listening to their stories with genuine compassion. His demeanor was kind and caring, a far cry from the shady character she had suspected him to be. Witnessing this act of kindness, Caitlin felt a pang of guilt for doubting him. Her heart sank as she realized her assumptions about Jeremy might have been wrong. Here he was, not involved in illicit activities, but volunteering to help the less fortunate. The contrast between what she had suspected and what she was now witnessing was jarring. Had she misjudged him based on incomplete evidence? The thought made her question her own judgment. Caitlin sat in her car, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. The discovery at the shelter had turned everything upside down. She reflected on her actions, the suspicion and the secrecy. Had her desire to protect Rachel led her to judge Jeremy unfairly? She pondered over the fine line between caution and prejudice. It was a moment of introspection and realization of her possible misjudgment. With newfound resolve, Caitlin approached Jeremy outside the shelter. Her voice was steady, but her heart was not. "Jeremy, I need to understand," she began, her eyes searching his. Jeremy looked surprised, then wary. It was a moment of truth, a confrontation that would either bridge or widen the gap of misunderstanding between them. Caitlin waited, hoping for honesty. Jeremy sighed, a mix of resignation and relief in his eyes. "I volunteer here," he confessed. His words were simple, yet they echoed loudly in Caitlin's mind, dismantling her suspicions. The revelation was a stark contrast to the nefarious image she had constructed of him. Jeremy's admission was the first step in unraveling the web of misunderstandings. Jeremy explained his secrecy. "I was afraid of being judged, of being seen as less than worthy in your eyes because of where I come from." His vulnerability was palpable. He shared his fear of prejudice, of not fitting into the world of wealth and status that Rachel's family inhabited. His honesty shed light on the complexity of his character. Jeremy spoke passionately about his work at the shelter. "Helping here gives me a sense of purpose," he said, his eyes lighting up. He talked about the people he met, their stories, and the gratification of making a small difference in their lives. His dedication painted a picture of a young man deeply committed to serving those in need, a side of him Caitlin hadn't seen before. Caitlin listened, her perspective shifting with every word Jeremy spoke. She began to see him not as a potential threat, but as a young man with a big heart, someone who genuinely cared for others. His actions spoke of a compassion and integrity she hadn't expected. This new understanding brought a sense of humility and empathy. She was seeing the real Jeremy for the first time. Caitlin, her eyes filled with newfound understanding, realized she had been wrong about Jeremy. The truth, so different from her suspicions, was a sobering wake-up call. Acknowledging her mistake, Caitlin approached Rachel and Jeremy with a heartfelt apology. "I misjudged you, Jeremy, and I'm deeply sorry," she admitted, her voice trembling with emotion. She praised Jeremy's character and his dedication to helping others, recognizing the good she had overlooked. The family began to heal, with open conversations replacing tension. Rachel's smile returned, and Patrick also acknowledged his role in the misunderstanding. As they moved forward, the family embraced Jeremy as one of their own, their bonds strengthened by the challenges they had overcome and their future brighter with trust and deeper connection.